Hello to everybody joining the monthly Central Eastern Europe Partners Gathering. I really hope that you find these sessions valuable for you, as well as you find the topics that we choose for the roundtable discussion valuable and relevant for you and your partner business. Why we do that roundtable discussions? Well, of course, first thing is that we as One Click Factory was nominated as CSP indirect provider for Central Eastern Europe. We try to figure out how can we help not only sell licenses to partners, but also how can we as partner help partners from the region get together, have some fun maybe, and discuss some relevant topics on the market. This time, we will be focusing on the topic on how do we sell more of Dynamics 365 services. Thank you, Hubert, for the idea. I think that was excellent idea because 1 second and my colleague will upload the set of dynamic ecosystem that we see at the moment. The solutions are added constantly. Microsoft is releasing more and more members to the Dynamics family. And of course, it's harder and harder to keep up the space. Is there a solution to that? We hope that there is, and that's why we are going to have the discussion, trying to understand, so how do we open up the discussion with our customers? How do we bring them discuss about these additional services that we are adding? How do we understand what is relevant for the customer? And how do we train our team to be able to have these decent conversations with the customer? As always, we are looking forward to be an active discussion. So if you would like us to improve, if you have another topic to share, please use the chat button that you have that you see on your right to either express how you're feeling, tell us where are you joining from, tell us maybe what's on your mind, and so on. The typical structure that we have, if you have a question to the panelists, please use questions answer sector. This way you will be sure that the question will pop out and the panelists will see it and answer, or we will take it to the end or even after the session, as I promise that all the questions that you ask will be answered one way or another during the session or afterwards. And before we introduce you to the panelists that we have on board, as always, we have three different views. We will have Microsoft view, we will have partner side view, and One Click Factory, who is kind of in between view. I would like to invite you to a short poll. We are going to focus on innovative selling. And innovative selling, by all means, is not possible if the customers are not ready. So at the moment, I would like to invite you and think about your customers. Are your customers maybe innovators, or are they early majority, or are they late majority, or maybe they are laggards? So which category do they fall into? Because as typically, if the customers are not innovating, if the customers are not prepared, it would be very hard to proceed with innovative selling. So let's just see what the poll results are, and I see that the results are changing. Okay, so just a sec. So I see that quite you are putting as customers in the late majority. So okay, so we will. It will be a nice discussion to have on what do we do with that? How do we help and how do we move from here if we want to approach the innovative selling, but then the customers maybe are not ready. And with that, I would like to introduce the three panelists, three experts on board. Erwin Hattenberg, SMB lead at Microsoft Central and Eastern Europe. Erwin, I'm very happy to have you on board. And, you know, if anyone would Google your name, I am pretty sure that innovative selling, innovation would be like a synonym next to your name. I believe that innovative selling will be a topic that you will drive us in that discussion as well.
Yeah, definitely. And well, first of all, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me on this panel. It's a topic that's very close to my heart, as you mentioned as well. I think that we're at a point in time where so many things are happening. The pace of innovation on the technology side is happening so rapidly. And I think, if you really want to kind of boost selling kind of the full Dynamics ecosystem, I think this is a skill set that partners kind of need to develop. And I often like to compare it to a bit of a dance, where I think for many companies and the relationship they have with their partners, that the company will kind of express a need, and they'll say, "Oh, I need this and this," and the partner, the IT provider, will say, "Okay, I'll go build that. I'll go make that happen," and that's okay, right? But I think we're getting to a point where we need to kind of change the dynamic in that dance a little bit. Where in the kind of dance we need today, it's not just about there is a leader and a follower in the dance. It's about taking turns, right? And I think the business will keep asking what they need. But I think because of what technology can open up today, I think what you want to do is to say, we need to switch that who's leading the dance a little bit every now and then, so that also, us as IT providers, as technology companies, we kind of take the lead and say, hey, dear business, did you know that you can do this and this and this today? And let's talk about how that could be put to use for your company. And that's kind of a switch that I think is really exciting. And I think this is actually where, for many partners, and I think if you look at the poll results as well, I think this is exactly what we expected, right? So the majority of customers kind of feel very comfortable in that late majority stage, right? It's not that they say innovation is not necessary, but they'll be like, I'll wait. And I think that means that for us, we need to emphasize a little bit more about what's possible. And I think once people can see, oh, can I really do this and this and this? And it doesn't take me a 1.5 year project and hundreds of thousands of investments. Cool. Then I'm on board. And I think lowering that threshold is something to look forward to. So yeah, I'm great to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Yes, I am looking forward too. And then I am very eager to welcome Aniko. You have a very even harder name than mine. Aniko Boržanine Oravich, representing partner Qualisoft. Aniko, you mentioned during all the calls that we had that Qualisoft is very capable of discussing and having this catalyst approach. And by the way, for all the partners joining, if you would like to download the framework that Aniko prepared for the session as the idea presented by Microsoft on the innovative selling, you might as well go to the handout session where you would find the handouts that we prepared on the One Factor CSP Acceleration Program as well as Catalyst Program. But Aniko, we saw the picture. The Dynamics family is intensive. How comfortable your team is talking about all the set of services, or maybe how many of them are you comfortable with?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, first of all, for this session. I'm very happy to be here and talk about these good things and actually challenges that we are facing in this field. Actually, at Qualisoft, we cover most elements of the Microsoft portfolio, but this is only part of our activities because as we are in an integrator company, we cover most of the areas of IT. It can be application modernization, for example, an old application written on all languages. We can modernize it. We are working with automated testing or automations or containerization, microservices. And beyond that, actually, we can help our customers who need IT resources. So we can provide with the IT resources from several areas. Can it be .NET or C# or anything? So actually, we have answers on most of the IT-related challenges in Qualisoft. But in the Microsoft unit, actually, we cover three main areas. One of them deals really with the ERP implementations and support, mainly at the moment with Business Central, but definitely you can find AX as a portfolio element from the old ages, and we are also dealing with finance and operations, which is the most modern version of this ERP. And our other team mainly focuses on customer engagement, but in the same team, we are covering the Power portfolio elements like Power BI, Power Automate, or model-driven applications, and we have experts here in the same team with these capabilities. And the third team mainly focuses on the M365 solution, including cloud implementation, security, O365 deployment, and Azure services, Teams, and SharePoint. So actually, as you show, the ecosystem is quite big, and we are covering most of the elements of it. In addition, we are one of the first in the CE region as well who are dealing with Microsoft compliance solutions and the adoption and change, which is a big help while we are trying to work with customers and working on projects. But our company is constantly changing and even innovating. So whatever comes up actually will be somewhere in our portfolio. At the moment, for example, we started to work with the HR solution of Microsoft. So definitely whatever comes and however Microsoft portfolio is changing, we try to follow that.
And it will be interesting to understand how you prepare the team for that, because this is a very intensive work to have the team ready and have these conversations to take over these conversations with the customer. But we will dive deeper into the sales attitude and approach itself that you are having inside Polysoft. It will be very interesting to hear. Agne, you are joining One Click Factory site, and you are the third expert representing kind of in between. Not partner side, we're not doing actual implementations, and not Microsoft side, but we are in between, working with Microsoft and with partners. How do you think can you add to this discussion, and what angle would you like to take toward leading the conversation?
So good day, everybody. So thank you for inviting. I enjoy those sessions very much. It's really very nice ideas are coming into the place. And yes, Inga, you are very right. It's probably an interesting place to be in between, right? So starting from where that we are acting as Microsoft ambassadors and actually working with Microsoft strategy and trying to empower all the innovation that Microsoft actually is carrying on the table, and also trying to support partners in the best way possible as a technological innovation center together with Microsoft. We are getting in those situations where we have to be one step kind of ahead. In front of everybody, yes, one step ahead of everybody, just to be able to support. And one of our main business areas are solution migration. So what does it mean to migrate solution? Yes, what is going to be customer journey going forward, and how actually and actually where the customer will end, and support partners to draw that vision. So actually, we are appearing in the situation, in those pre-sale situations, how to add value toward the partner, to help to draw the vision toward the customer, representing Microsoft in the best way, and also we have the challenge to grow our team as fast as possible. So, and a little bit faster probably than sometimes some partner can. So we are coming from that angle.
And I think it is a very interesting angle, because I know how much you are investing to have the people onboarded and up to date. This requires time. So it would be good. It is good to know for all the partners on how much effort, on how much capacity should you plan in order to have this innovative sales happening. But okay, so let's dive into this original idea and the topic itself. So how do I start? So I had a partner saying, I would like to start selling and introducing these additional services to my customers. But how do I even open up conversation? How do I go beyond my comfort zone, talking not only about Dynamics ERP solution that I know as core, but also adding some additional services on top. So Erwin, what would be your answer to that question? How do you open up a conversation with potential customers?
Yeah, I think so. The main kind of approach that, look, when I see partners that are doing this really well, and also when I look at some of the engagement that we have as Microsoft with perhaps a little larger customers as well, and how our teams are doing that too, it all comes down to, I would say, exploring options. And what I mean with that is, when you look at, you might as a partner feel comfortable with a particular set of technology, and everyone is a bit kind of that T shape, right, where you've got kind of a horizontal view on many things, but you go deep on a smaller set of things. That means it's hard to kind of keep up with kind of what's going on in the rest of that kind of technology platform. So your energy and your time available to go deep is of course very limited, because you can only go deep in so many things. So the reason why that plays a role is that you want to know with your customer very open and transparently, where does it make sense to actually go a little bit deeper? Because for you kind of to develop yourself into all kinds of technology without really feeling that there is an application waiting in a scenario where a customer can be helped with that, that's maybe not the most efficient way. So what I think makes the most sense is to be very open with your customers and to start having small sessions with them around three things, really. What are the problems that they're facing today? What direction do they want to take the company? And third, and this is where the partner comes in, what's possible with technology? And that doesn't mean we need to kind of be a full expert in everything. But the moment you start to put these three things together is like when you start to see, where do I need to go deeper? Because if a customer, for instance, says, look, we're thinking about taking a new product to market, or we're thinking about expanding our services in another country, or whatever it may be, for you to then be able to say, oh, and I just learned that this and this is possible. Did you know that that's possible? You start to kind of make mappings here. And by having these recurring sessions, and I advise every partner to say, look, on a regular basis, do it on a Friday afternoon. Right now, we'll have to do it with virtual pizzas, I guess. But once we go back to normal, just bring a couple of people together from the customer and start kind of philosophizing about what's possible. And I think the art of the possible is a term that we use a lot within Microsoft. So just to be aware of what could be done here. And the moment you then start to sense on the business side that there's a lot of energy behind a particular problem, or there's a lot of energy behind a particular objective that the company has, you can start to connect things. And even if as a partner you might not feel fully, you might not have really understood what it means to provide kind of a virtual agent based on the Power Platform or some other additional services that you might not really know yet, but it's enough to know what it can do. So the art of the possible here. And then if you feel the energy with the customer, you'll say, okay, let me explore that a little bit better. And on our next session, let me bring you some more practical examples of what could be done here. And you take it kind of step by step by step. So that's a way where you can kind of do that mapping with each other in very open, recurring sessions with the customer to see where do we need to go a little bit deeper. And with that, you open up new doors and you basically start kind of an ongoing cycle. And that's something that some companies do this very formally with kind of design thinking sessions, what have you. Others take a more informal approach. It doesn't really matter. It's all about kind of what relationship you have with your customer here. But to do those sessions, I think are very, very important.
I think this is the first step that we would like the audience to take out, that these sessions should be on a recurring basis, and they are not sales sessions, meaning that we are coming not to sell, right?
Yeah. They're like exploratory sessions, yeah.
I wonder whether partners who are joining the session at the moment are doing this kind of thing. Can you please raise the hands, the ones that have recurring brainstorm sessions in your companies already? Maybe you are on this good curve already. It would be interesting to learn. And I also, Erwin, liked when you mentioned on our calls that you said there always takes 1-2 person to be like a translator,
yes.
Someone that connects the experts, the technology side, and then the partner side, so that they could bring in and translate the customer language and the expert language.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that translation goes back to, again, the art of the possible, right? Because if you've got a solution and you're looking for a problem, it's not necessarily the smartest way to go about doing that, right? But I think it's exactly in being able to know enough. And again, you guys showed kind of the full breadth, for instance, of the Dynamics platform at the beginning. And there's, of course, even areas beyond that in terms of modern work or Azure or what have you. But to know enough, and I think that is always, I think, the two kind of skills investments that I would take as a company first and foremost, right? Know your depth in the places where you're delivering today, and know enough of the broad ecosystem to understand which places you need to go deep next time. And I think that translation function is very important for any kind of company that wants to be successful today.
And I see Sarah is raising the hand, so we have at least one company proceeding with brainstorm sessions, and I think for the rest, it is a good advice to start. Yes, it is an investment, but we will discuss further on whether we see that investment paying off in the end. Okay, Aniko, so you have an interesting approach as well. You mentioned that you always are ready I think you're following a very similar approach at Wallisoft, right? Coming into the generic approach and then having experts to support your back. Can you elaborate more on how do you do that?
Yeah, so as our customers are more and more prepared and they are really arriving with their own ideas, what they want, so definitely we had to change our sales as well. So what normally happens that the customer comes that I need to change my ERP, I want F&O, and I want this and this and this, which is okay. But what comes next is that a consultation with the customer normally, where we really discuss what they need, and many times it turns out that this is not what they really need. So we really try to find out what the customer really needs, what are the pain points, what answer we need to give. So it is never the same like before, that we just go with the product and we just sell it. So it's not like that. It's not anymore just sales that sell a material, sell a product and sell a solution, sell a project and you are done. But how it looks like now is really like a sales with the mix of the consultation. So it's more of a BPR, the business process re-engineering process that starts. So we try to understand the customer, understand how they work, understand their product, understand the tools and the procedures they are working with, understand their market, their competitors. So, and then only we try to find out what can be the good solution, the good mix of the solutions that we can provide them. It can be Microsoft products, mix of Microsoft products, but as I said, as we are integrators, we can involve other solutions as well. But what I can also tell that Microsoft is already helping this kind of activity with the Catalyst program. You can see some material in the handouts, and I really suggest for every salespeople to read that through, because it's not only valid for Microsoft products, but definitely for that consultative sales. It's really good to go through that and really to learn this idea framework that Microsoft is providing to us. And at the moment, we have many types of solutions. As I said, we have BC, finance and operations, CRM, Power Platform. So it's not anymore easy to find out that, okay, this you will need, and then you get it, and then done, and we are going with the next customer. But what really comes is that we start to work deeply with that customer. We try to really investigate it further and further and further. And that's how actually we have customers where we work for the last 10 years together. So it's really worth to do that.
Okay, but it is the way it is. I remember you mentioning that you have to have crowd specialists, right? Once you come with that approach, you need to have persons on board, the ones that just, and like Erwin said, the ones that say, okay, there is a bell rings, I know something about it, let me take an expert, and then you're taking an expert to support.
Yeah, definitely. How it starts is always just a communication with the salespeople. But definitely at the next step, we involve pre-sales people who are more deep in the technology and they know really the deepest bits of it. And we involve these people in the sales stage, actually. And the first step is always the sales. The sales needs to know the products, needs to know how to solve it. We really teach them how to do that. But the salespeople should not go deep in the technology, and it's not their task to do that. So what we really do is that we make everyone to be a bit sales and everyone to be a bit of consultant. So everybody from the sales team knows some of consultancy job, activities and tasks, and again from the technology part, these people from really the consultants, the developers, they also have some trainings where they go through how to talk with the customer and really sales techniques we teach them, and it's really good to do that.
Yes, and it's a very good teamwork and cooperation, and yes, growing with the company itself.
Yeah.
Aina, your team has helped quite many partners across the world in the pre-sale stage, either to move the upgrade or even sell the upgrade itself, moving to the cloud, moving to the newest version. What have you noticed? Maybe some special campaigns that partners are doing or special tips that you could share?
So so our kind of position is pretty interesting, and of course we always come from IX FNO perspective here. So this is our homeland, and at the moment this homeland has suddenly become a starship, with starting from FNO, going to project operation, customer experience, power platform, field services, and so on. So a lot of things to catch up, and probably. Actually, how we start to kind of trying to organize it, because at least our experience is that customers, for instance, they heard something about everything. It sounds cool, but we don't know what it's all about, right? Partners are coming from the safe land. So they are coming from implementation and from the standard IX, where they are safe, they know what they do, and they would like to do it fast, simple, and understandable, right? And then we have an area in between. So first of all, how to find the common background between the customer who heard something, sounds cool, but they don't know how to go there, and the partner who wants to look smart, do the best, but maybe even they don't know how, because there's so much to handle at the same moment of time. Yes, so pretty much in every iteration in our own pre-sale process, we're starting from the step getting everybody on the same page. And this actually catalyst and visioning approach is probably the best thing so far I heard in the sales approach, actually including technical pre-sales in very early stages, pretty much at the very first step, to lead those conversations, setting the boundaries and common understanding between the partner and the customer, and empowering partner to talk about the customer strategy. Even for the customer, it's a little bit uncomfort area, because it's very easy to talk about the feature, or it's very easy to talk about what I can do and what I can click. But when I start talking about, okay, so what is your IT development future? So where are you now? What is your fixed area? But what your management sees you going into 2, 3 years, 5 years. So what does it mean cloud for your company? How your IT department supposed to change? Do you have internal capacity? Are there going to be people who would help us to develop those processes further, and so on? So just coming from those questions, we kind of setting people in the same base and drawing the picture where they can be after migration, after 1 year, and how to empower the system to be in evolution stage going for the next 5 years together with the organization, and what kind of homework they supposed to do today, going from on-prem, moving to cloud, what it would cost for them, and what change for organization and IT sector would that mean. So it's kind of at the same moment of time, we're talking about the strategy of the company and envisioning of the management, and then rolling it back to the IT team, partner, and people who are actually going to implement it, and placing that into actual activities. What does it mean and how it's going to be done together with a methodology to do. So this is actually how we are trying to roll, and it's so far we see extremely huge success, because it allows end customer and the partner to become partners in the customer solution development together. So that's my 5 cents.
Getting everybody on the same page, right? So being on the same, and I think that leads us. Well, you already mentioned some challenges that goes with that, and this is the area that I would like to turn as for our discussion. if we look at the situation today, regardless on how easy would that sound, let's have experts, let's have generic view, let's have brainstorm session. When we look at the actual sales numbers, and I have Microsoft colleagues have shared that thought, not too many partners are utilizing all these new releases. Not too many customers can have these solutions implemented. Why is that? What are stopping customers from moving forward, and what is stopping partners from suggesting the newly added solutions to their customers? Erwin, what would be your opinion on that? The challenge aside.
Yeah, that's a big question. So look, I think there's many things to talk about here, but I'll start with maybe an example, and I think it's connected to this. So when you, in psychology, there's a famous experiment where they tried a display. So if you're, for instance, on a market or in a supermarket, and you have kind of people that are trying to sell jam, right? Blueberry jam, cherry, whatever. And they did an experiment where they had kind of, different displays in the same kind of setting. And on one table, they had like 24 different kinds of jams, right? And they asked people, oh, do you want to taste this? Do you want to, what do you like? And so on and so forth. And in the other part of the experiment, they had a table where they had only 5 or 6 jams on display. Same stuff. Do you want to try? Do you like it? Etc. The result of the experiment was that in the table where you had like the 24 jams, where you had the biggest amount of choice, you had the most people trying. So they would try 3 or 4 different pieces. But the kick is that they wouldn't buy. And the reason why they wouldn't buy is that they struggled to kind of figure out which one do I like the best. Out of so many choices, I'm not sure I'm making the right choice. So this is a very common thing in psychology, where when we're overwhelmed by choice, we tend to shut down and we tend to not make any choice at all. And I think you probably recognize this with some other examples as well, right? So in the other experiment, where they only had like 5 or 6 jams, there was not as many people tasting because they didn't see this enormous amount of stuff. But they did buy more, and they bought more because the decision frame was simpler, right? I could pick between 5 or 6 different things. This is the one I liked. I'm going to buy it. And I think this is very much going on in our world as well, where there's a couple of things happening, right? In the poll, we saw that the majority of our customers, or as we see them, are in the late majority, right? And so when we talk about innovation and we talk about companies doing amazing things with technology, we tend to actually have lots of references about the companies that are in the early adopters, the true innovator state. And when you kind of paint a picture there, you have a different kind of psychological consequence, that what these guys are doing is so far away from my daily reality as a company that I wouldn't even know where to start. And again, same thing, you get overwhelmed by the choices that you could make, and you tend to basically not make any choice at all. I think that is kind of a big problem. And I think if that distance becomes too big, there's just too many things to get done, and it doesn't work. So one of the things that I think is a generic pattern on, let's say, new technology adoption, is that when you're dealing with customers in a, let's say, late majority stage, right, you have to kind of dial down, let's say, the examples, and even kind of the framework that we talked about, right? Which is in its sense works really well, and we know this. This is the catalyst approach. It works, but you need to sometimes repack it a little bit into something a little bit more smaller, a little bit more simpler, so that for the customer, it's not like, oh, I've got 26 jams to think about and everything is possible. You need to actually kind of keep it small. And I think when you then kind of zoom in on a very tiny example and you show progress, then you can take it one step further. And I think that the mistake we make sometimes, even also us as Microsoft, we like to talk about the best of the best, the newest of the newest. But the reality is, for some customers, when they look at their IT environment, that is so far away that it becomes this kind of alien thing, which they will feel as is not applicable to me because I don't even know where to start, right? So keep it very, very small. And even if you use the framework, maybe don't even call it the framework. And that's why I also said, like, instead of saying, let's have an envisioning workshop, let's just talk about possibilities over a pizza, right? It's a different thing. And I think for these customers, you shrink it down And the moment you can then identify a single small thing that you say, well, you know what? Why don't we just pick up this thing and do that, do it quickly, show the result, you know what happens, right? Success leads to more appetite for success. And then slowly, bit by bit, you'll be able to build on it and you'll change that mindset. And I'll come back to a mindset change a little later on today as well. But I think this shrinking down is very, very, very important. And the reason why sometimes it's we come out with too much and it just overwhelms customers and they don't know how to deal with that.
That's true. I think the last you also mentioned distancing with the customer, and one time I like your thought on this, that if we have too big of a distance and if customer cannot keep up on the innovation, then we will lose him as well, as some customers will appear under the curve. I really like that, your idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's it's back to this kind of the distance here is like, for a customer sitting today, I might have some, really old legacy on-prem stuff. I might have a lot of things there. And the distance to, the newest of the newest part of technology is like walking from here to Tokyo, right? I'm like, I don't even know how to get there. And I think what we're saying is, you know what, we'll get to Tokyo at some point. But, if you're sitting in Warsaw or whatever, let's maybe first talk about the next 100 kilometers. Let's get there first. And then we'll talk about, let's not worry about Tokyo for now. So yeah, reducing the distance is vital.
I think at this point, I would like to invite the partners to share their view on innovation. We have prepared another poll, and I think it would be a good point to introduce to that point. So what holds you from innovating, from innovation selling? And just a second, I will ask my colleagues to upload the poll. So the questions that you see are, what is holding you back from focusing more on innovation? Is that your people are fully booked and you don't have time for all these tips that we're sharing, or you can't afford to dig into the customer's vertical solution? And maybe that is true too. We have to understand customers' actual situation. We make money out of maintaining our customers, and we kind of stick to the idea that they will upgrade when time comes eventually, or our customers are not ready to this. So let us, and then I will ask Aniko to reflect on the poll's result, whether she agrees with other partners as well as with Erwin, whether you agree that these are the challenges that partners have, or maybe you have different challenges from partner perspective that would stop other partners from innovating selling. So let me see. Okay, my people are fully booked. This is one of the reasons that we see at the moment. And I think with all this pandemic, it gets even more true. Everyone is suffering, but IT sector is completely overbooked with projects, moving to cloud, securing remote places, and so on. We really are the lucky ones to live in the sector as this. So, Aniko, would you support what Erwin has just shared, that from partner perspective, this might be a challenge?
Yeah, I fully agree with Erwin. And actually, your question was also dual, one from the customer point of view, and the other was really from the partner standpoint. First of all, I must say that it's really not equal if you ask a new customer or you ask an old one. I can share that AX customers, the old AX customers, are really nightmare in this field, because they do have an old system which is perfectly working. They really use it in everyday life for years, for 10 years or more than that, and they are really happy with the solutions. And above that, actually, in most of the cases, the manager or the director of these companies are older people who are not really happy with the changes. So actually, it's really not easy. With the really greenfield implementations, it's a lot easier because they are young, they have phones, they see the applications, they use it in everyday life, and they are really more open for the change. But even this situation is changing in the last 2-3 years. I can see that it was really changed. Earlier, it was still a lot harder. So now I can see that with these Power Platform and other solutions than the ERP, we can open up the doors and then we can sneak in and really start to convince them with the new things. And we can really have new ideas that are coming up in their mind as well. And slowly, bit by bit, as Erwin also said, we can implement these newer solutions in these old systems as well. And at the end, maybe we can change the ERP as well behind as like a hard change, in the system. So this is not easy. And from really talking from my management view, from the partner side, I would love to highlight that in the partner side, the capabilities are not always unlimited either. As you could also see from the poll that, we have a lot of people, but out of the lot of people, I have only 2 who are working with the same technology, because the ecosystem is bigger and bigger. So you can be perfect with your approach, but and you can train your team and you can be up to date, but you are not alone in the market. You have you have a lot of influencers on the market, for example, the competitors as well, or Microsoft itself, because Microsoft is constantly adding new solutions to the Dynamics ecosystem. And so it's also always a challenge, and then it's always a work. It always gives a lot of work for us to keep on with this technology. So and also it happens that Microsoft just eliminates one solution from the set. So we always need to have plan B and plan C and D sometimes. So actually it's and also COVID came into the picture and the market. So it is not always easy.
Thank you. Agnes, what would your 2 cents be? So you shared some of the challenges. Are there any more that you would like to the picture from partner perspective, what we see at One Click Factory?
Yeah, so probably I'm very much on the same plate with both, starting from Erwin's choice sample. My husband tends to say, choices make people unhappy. So, and he used to work for Oracle many years ago, so it came from there. But also that let's say F&O, IX customers, they are big. They really a nightmare in some way. But probably it's also some luck. Because the customers, they have their own AT teams. And starting from the fear they have inside, they also started to have quite innovative management there and also invest into the change. And this is what we see into the market, that even some partners are pushed by the customers to be a little bit more innovative and actually also triggering the change from the customer side, because customers are more empowered at the moment. Yeah, so this is what's happening at the moment. However, we still live in the area of a puzzle where there are so many choices to make, to go, let's say, standard finance supply chain management, or go non-standard with a lot of apps, or maybe just write an extension, or what should we do? So it's always so many ways to go that probably only mapping of all of it takes time. So if before, let's say, sales cycle was taking, I don't know, I usually tend to say that to sell F&O, I'm happy if we can do it in 9 months. So now when we are coming with those agile and visioning steps, so it sometimes can take even longer, but what the result is that is quite qualified solutions for the customers, and implementations are easier. So because in the extended sales and pre-sale approach, customer and partner, they're getting, as I said before, on the same page. So of course it takes longer time, but the quality is better. It's like Swedish consensus principle, just invest enough time in conversation. So that's why, probably because all this, let's say, finance supply chain management or Power Platform or apps and so on approach, I would say rather new for everybody. And we are in quite long sales stage. So let's say my observations at the moment that we're starting to climb the mountain at the moment with new migration projects. So that's my 5 cents.
Yeah, Erwin. Yes, of course, Erwin.
Yeah, I just wanted to reflect on the poll for just a little bit, and I put a link in the chat there. I don't think it captures the link, but if you search on what I wrote, you'll find the post. Great recommendation, by the way. Also, this guy, James Clear, a lot of good tips on work, but on time management in particular, right? Because that came out as the biggest challenge. And he kind of also reflects on three main things there. Well, number one is there's noise, right? So even if we say, I don't have time, I'm so busy, the reality is there's probably noise. And what I mean with noise is like there is time that just gets lost, or it's not efficient, or we're not focused, or whatever. So there's more time than we think. I think that's number one. And number two is, and I think that's really important, is look, I always, when I talk to my people, for instance, talk about, look, your day is like this glass, right? There's only so much water that you could put in. It's as simple as that, right? So your question that you really need to ask yourself is, what's the most important thing? And start with that. Because when you start with that, you might have to still do the same thing, but by the way it works as well is like a pressure in the system, right? If at the end of the day, you still need to resolve on all of those, let's say, more less important things, you tend to go through them faster if you give yourself less time to go through them. That's just also the human reality. And the other thing that he says is reduce the scope, but stick to the schedule. It's like working out. If you say like, look, I want to work out every day. And some days it's just really, really difficult. But if you only have like 5 or 10 minutes, it still makes sense to work out for 5 or 10 minutes. So you need to also think about the different things you want to do in terms of scale. What can I do in 5 minutes? What can I do in an hour? What can I do in half a day, right? And by doing these two things, I do think that you kind of flip the script a little bit, saying like, I don't have enough time, to saying like, I do have time if I start with the most important thing, I chop it up, right? And I give myself, let's say, a little bit of pressure to do the, let's say, non-essential things a little bit faster than I'm used to. And I think that's just a reflection on that.
I need to remember this sentence, you have more time than you think. I need to remind myself once in a while. Okay, so not maybe lastly, but when I would like to move to that. So how many people do we need? So if we are to focus on innovative selling, what kind of people, what competencies, and how many of those do we need to have on board? Erwin.
Yeah, I think, again, it's a little bit the mantra of this session. Keep it small, I think, right? So I think the most important people to kind of get in from the customer side is obviously you want to have someone in the room who can make things happen in terms of who has the decision ability to move something forward, right? It doesn't make any sense to have kind of a session and nobody really knows where to start or how to commit to something. That's important. Now, the downside of that is that these people tend to not always exactly know, let's say, where the biggest bottlenecks are in terms of problems that need to be resolved, or the potential that might be lurking somewhere in the company. And so you want to have that person who can make things happen. They probably have a longer view on what's possible. But when you think about innovation, there's like two profiles that always come into play. You've got like the real, kind of hardcore visionary people. Think Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, whatever you want to call as an example, right? They have a really clear vision and they know exactly where I want to go, and I'm doing anything I can to get there. And most of us are not that person, right? Most of us are not that kind of person. The other people are more like what I call pragmatists. So it's not about like, oh, I want to get to that thing in 3 years. No, but they more look at a shorter term view right ahead of them, but they do see plenty of potential to optimize and improve. And that's the second person you want to have in the room, which is someone from the daily reality. So if it's, and you can kind of, if you're doing these informal sessions, you can kind of mix it up. And, one time you could maybe focus more a little bit on the sales guys, bring in a seller from the company, from the customer, right? They will know exactly what they run into. Or if it's a manufacturing plant, get someone from the work floor to participate, because they know the details. They know exactly where time is wasted, where opportunities are. And I think by bringing these two things together from a customer, I think that's the minimum you want. And then ultimately on let's say on the partner side, on the tech side, you want to again have someone who is comfortable in the competence of your core business, right? If you're in Dynamics, you want to have, that's your starting point. But you want to have that broader person as well, who can be that translator, like I said in the beginning, right? Who can then pick up on some of the things that the customer might say about, this is difficult, or if only we could do this and this and this. And then you can start making mapping to, oh, wait a minute, there's something there that might have a role to play here. Let me pick up on that and we'll take it one step further. So I think those four are like the key people you want to have in that session. And again, keep it small. And if you're struggling with a customer who really isn't committed to innovation, definitely keep it informal. And then once you can see some early small successes based on some smaller innovations you've driven, then you can, improve it, and then you can also bring in kind of the catalyst frame, and then the appetite will be more there on the customer side, I think.
So these 4 people should be on the brainstorm sessions that we should be organizing regularly, at least the advice is to organize regularly with the customer, right?
Yep. And you can rotate, right? But definitely always have someone from, let's say, the more detail, and someone who can make something happen. Without those two, nothing happens.
Mm-hmm. Anika, what is your view on that? So how many people and what competences should you have on board?
Yeah, I would say that first of all, you need to have a strong sales team. It should not be too big, because my key message actually for everyone is that everyone is a salesperson in our organization. It means that whomsoever is on the floor and doing development is also a sales, because if he finds out an opportunity, then definitely there are steps how to make it a real opportunity and a real business at the end. And what we are doing for that is that we always keep these people up to date. So salespeople are getting technology training. We teach them what are the new things in the technology, what are the new Microsoft elements that they can sell to the customers. And it's not really about telling the name of the application and then go and sell, but it's always like materials about whom to contact to, why to contact to that person, what is the key message of that product, how we can do that for the customer, what are the good questions. We have question sets for our salespeople, and vice versa. Our salespeople also teaches our consultants and developers that, hey, if you see this or that, or just if you talk to the customer, could you please ask some of these questions, and then we go ahead with the business itself and with the sales process. So it's now, as I already mentioned, it's more of a consultative sales with a huge effort that we are putting into really get them trained continuously. And really these pre-sales team members, they are working on the floor and really experiencing the everyday life of the customer. They can also have these opportunities in front of them, and out of that we also make a lot of business.
Thank you. So you mentioned also materials, that it's pre-sales and sales technical cooperation, but also materials could smoothen the process and make it easier for all the both sides to transition, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
These materials can be questionnaires, can be one-pagers. Handout materials, actually joker cards for the sales to go on site and talk to the customer.
Yes. Agnes, so I know that, we are talking about technical team at your site. So how do you keep the team updated on the latest technology?
Challenging.
Challenging?
But to be fair, actually, the same as Hanika said. So first of all, it's trying to keep... First of all, when we are, let's say, coming into the pre-sales together with the partners and so on, probably the first question is, what is the set of the competencies we have? We have, partner has. And actually, and how, let's say, is the best way to approach the customer with the competencies? Because in very rare cases, it's enough one person, usually never. And as far as we... see now, at least from One Click Factory side, so it's always a technical pre-sale, it's always senior PM who has understanding of the process. So senior tech person, what? Senior project manager, how? And then even a product marketing or business development person is actually what is in it for the customer. So actually those 3 questions to be answered, and for successful sales approach, and in such cases usually customer feels pretty safe that he has a good team behind that can cover most of the things in the change management process actually that they are going, and actually filling the pieces that they are missing and keeping them safe through the process, because the safety probably is one of the biggest questions that should be covered during pre-sale stage.
So I think we all of you are pretty much on alignment of the set of roles that we have to have in the sales process. Okay,
Yes.
our time is coming to an end, and I see that the dog is barking, so Aniko probably went to shut the door.
The dog is the timekeeper.
Yes, we have pandemic going on where everyone is working from home, so all is understandable. Just before we close down, I would like to ask you and share what if there is one thing that you would like the audience to take out of this session, what would that be? Erwin.
Yeah, I'll be super quick, and I'm gonna move in two. Because one point I really wanted to make, and that is about that it does pay off to invest in deepening the technical understanding, right? So when we look at our partners and we look at the ones that have invested in technology, and we look, for instance, at certifications, because that's a neutral way of assessing that. And we can see that those partners, are able to drive different discussions with customers. They're able to open up new opportunities better, and it also results in more sales. And I think that investment is something that is absolutely, crystal clear. So that's definitely one. Like, it pays off to be able to kind of navigate and be that translator function for your customers. And the second thing is and I'll write that recommendation in the chat as well, is that I think it's about mindset, right? So keep it small, right? So these customers that are in late majority, they are struggling to see what's possible, right? And they will typically have a mindset that is more in the we can't do this because kind of reasoning, right? We can't do this because it's too expensive, it's too hard, we're too far away, we don't know what to do, we can't do it because. And what you want is to kind of help that customer move into a we can if mindset, right? So that, again, start small, but the moment you can start and flip the switch and say, well, okay, if you're saying we can't do it because it's too expensive, and you swip that and you say, well, we can if we either, find other ways to fund a particular project, and you start to, instead of focusing on the blockers, you focus on the how do we make this happen? Or you start to say, how do we reduce the cost? How do we do this? And again, with the Power Platform and with kind of every broad iteration of services that we've got available in Dynamics, I think there's plenty of ways to be a lot more creative around it. So focus on, definitely tech depth helps. Switch it from we can't because to we can if, and then I'll be quiet.
No, we can't. We can't hear. We can't anymore. Thank you, Erwin. Aniko, what would be your key takeaway?
Yeah, I guess what my key message would be is that success has many components. Actually, it can be knowledge of the market, can be knowledge of the product, but it's not anymore enough. Consultative sales and the continuous preparation of the sales team, and actually the pre-sales team, and actually everyone in these continually changing circumstances, and ability to adopt to these changes, and the quick response, and really to be able to be ready with answers and for the changes, all contribute to the success. So if I need to summarize it very shortly, then I would say that everyone is a sales, which is one of the key messages. And the second one is know your customer well. And this will definitely drive, this will be definitely the shortest path to the success.
And I would agree completely. So I am, being a salesperson, I know that consultants sometimes hate to be called salespeople, but this is what I always tell to the team as well. As when you are in front of the customer or representing the team, you are a salesman, no matter what, in this perspective. So Agna, your turn. What would be your advice or the key takeaway?
Yeah, I'm sorry to say we are consultants and we are salespeople. So if the consultants community don't like me now much, sorry, but this is the reality. And what I wanted to say, the probably investment in our own people, this is a critical one. And actually, I understand, especially in implementation projects, when we are going in 2.5-year project, it's a long time period where usually our domain consultancy power, they are stuck with one customer, with one business process, and they know customer very well, but they don't know product enough. I know I have been there. I know what I'm talking about. And actually, this continuous push for people, giving them opportunity to learn as soon as they getting out of the one project and giving them chance to participate in pre-sale, to give the broader perspective, to give them ability or even the target on performance review to read or listen of some broadcast like 30 minutes a day, nothing more, just to catch up, and then give them opportunities as a challenge actually to take new innovative project on the desk. Actually, this is what I'm voting for. In that case, we will have good consultants and good pre-sales at the end of the day.
Thank you. And with this, I want to thank you a lot, Erwin, Aniko, Agnia, for joining the discussion. It was much fun for me, and I hope that it was fun for all of you joining the session too on the partner side. From my side, I would just like to invite you once again to join One Click Factory CSP Acceleration Program. We have a program prepared in place to help you guide and have all our experts guide in behind to have your back on the processes to cloud, on helping move your customers to cloud. The next session is going to be focused on a very exciting topic: which solution, ERP solution, Business Central, the Dynamics 365 Business Central, or Finance or Supply Chain Management works best for my customer. Please register to the session already, as we have started and opened the registration already. Thank you, everybody joining.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye. Have
Thanks
a
for
good
having
day.
me. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.